Hello and welcome back. The time has come for the final showdown for the Hand of the Princess in our Nullitaire playthrough of Love Letter. So once again, Nullitaire here means we're playing with 0 players, or in other words, we're playing bots against one another. We've been engaged in a tournament which has come down to the end here. There's just one game remaining in this tournament. If you haven't seen any of this playthrough so far, I suggest you start from the beginning, where I explain the bots. So I will link the full playlist in the description of this video, and I suggest go back and watch from the beginning so you have a sense of what's going on. But the tournament so far has been rather exciting. Ravenbot was knocked out very early in the tournament. It was the first one to go. Turkeybot was the second one to be eliminated, and now it's come down to Dovebot and Hawkbot, who already played a game against each other, and Hawkbot won that game. But Dovebot only lost once. That's the only loss it had in the tournament, and this is a double elimination style tournament, so that means that they will have to play once again. So they've both lost one game each in this tournament. Hawkbot lost in the first round, but hasn't lost since then. So whoever wins this is declared the victor of the entire tournament. Okay, so it comes down to this. Hawkbot versus Dovebot. Who's your pick? Who will win this battle? Let's find out. Okay, we're all set up, about ready to begin. Dovebot won the toss, and so will be first in the first hand, which is kind of fitting because Hawkbot went first in the last game, so that seems fair. So I'm glad it worked out that way. And yeah, okay, so let's get going. Deal the first hand. Dovebot starts out with its favorite card, the Handmaid, and a guard. So we know what Dovebot's going to do. It's going to play that Handmaid, definitely. Okay, cannot be targeted for the rest of the round. Hawkbot draws a 2-1, Priest Guard, and according to its programming would play the guard here. You know, I've been thinking, during this playthrough, the ways in which these bots could be made better, and this is a place where they could be made better. One thing somebody mentioned in the comments recently where the bots could be made better is they could pay better attention to the size of the deck, especially as it gets near the end. When you draw the last card of the deck, typically you should keep the higher card, right? Because you're more likely to win the showdown, which is probably inevitable. Of course, game conditions might dictate something else, but in general, that's probably the case. And these bots don't pay any attention to the size of the remaining deck. Okay, but here's another way they could be made better. Hawkbot, likes to play ones and just sort of guess its opponent's hands. It prefers doing that than playing the priest and seeing what their hand is and that sort of thing. So here's a case in which, Hawkbot, if it was a human player here, would know that its opponent, its only opponent, has a Handmaid in play right now and so cannot be targeted. So, a human player who plays by Hawk-style strategy probably would play the priest and hang on to the guard for a better opportunity. But in any case, these bots, again, are not that sophisticated as they're written. So this is another place where they might be made better. If they could be more sensitive to what the other players are doing around the board, in particular, players who have handmaids in play. And that's especially important in the 2-player game. In the 4-player game, obviously not every player is going to have a handmaid. It's only 2. But in the 2-player game, you only have one opponent, and if they have a handmaid in play, then whatever card you play is probably not going to have much of an effect. So in cases like this, you probably want to play a card that you care the least about, not the card you really want to play. Okay, but anyway, the Hawk plays the 1 here, because that's what its programming does. Okay, but the 1 doesn't do anything. Dovebot now has the King Guard, and so we'll play the guard in this case. And so it will choose a card according to this priorities, this procedure. It doesn't know its opponent's card, so it'll choose the highest number 2 to 5 that has 2 unseen cards. All right, well, no 5 can be seen by Dovebot right now, so that'll be the choice. Hawkbot, are you holding a prince? No. Well, he is now. Okay, 5-2. Hawkbot will play the 2. All right. That means he gets to take a peek at Dovebot's hand and sees the king there. Yeah, this is bad news for Dovebot. The king guard. Really terrible hand to play the king with. I mentioned this before. You know, when you play the king in this situation, you end up giving the guard to someone who gives you their card. So they know what hand you have. They know what card you're holding. And they have a guard. You're pretty much a sitting duck in a case like that. But here the king is compromised because Hawkbot knows that Dovebot's holding it. But playing the 6 here is such a bad move that Dovebot's going to play the 1 anyway and hope that that compromised king doesn't become a problem. Okay, well, let's see. I mean, might be able to just guess Hawkbot's hand, and then it won't be a problem. So we're going to guess the highest number 2 to 5 that has 2 unseen cards. Well, I mean, isn't that the 5 still? Yeah, it is. And isn't Hawkbot holding a 5? Yeah, I think so. So it looks like the Dove's going to get away with something here. It says 5, and that is the card that Hawkbot's holding. So Dovebot wins the first token of affection. Dovebot starts the next round with the 3-1. And so, of course, we'll play the 1 in this case. Yep. Okay, play the 1. And so we'll go with the highest card, 2 to 5. That has 2 unseen cards. No 5 can be seen right now, so that'll be the guess. Is Hawkbot holding a prince again? No. Well, once again, Hawkbot picks up a prince right after being accused of holding one. Didn't work out so good last time, so let's see if Hawkbot does better this time. Okay, the 5-1, in this case, play the 1. Okay. So it will guess, just like Dovebot does, the highest number 2 to 5 that has 2 unseen cards. Well, Hawkbot can see a 5, but can't see any 4s. So that'll be the guess. Dovebot, are you holding a handmaid? No. Well, okay. Dovebot gets super lucky here. The best hand in the game. You can't lose with this hand. Okay, so the Baron is the play, initiates an automatic showdown that Dovebot can't lose. Okay, so Dovebot wins again. Dovebot starts the next round with the King Handmaid, 6-4. And so we'll play its favorite card, the Handmaid. So it cannot be targeted the rest of the round. Hawkbot now with the double guard, so must lose one of them. Doesn't do anything because the Handmaid. Dovebot now with the 6-2. And in this case, we'll play the 6, actually. Remember that Dovebot's thinking is to play the higher cards and keep lower cards. Okay, so it will trade hands with Hawkbot. Trade a guard for a priest. So Hawkbot has a 4-2. The 2 is compromised, of course, because Dovebot just gave the Hawk that card. But in this case, Hawkbot will play that card anyway. Plays the 2. Okay. But the thing is, the 2, I mean, it doesn't really do anything because Hawkbot already knows Dovebot's holding the guard. So it's another case where, you know, maybe the bot could be made a little bit better. The Handmaid probably was a better play there. But anyway, that's the way it was written. Dovebot now is a 5-1. The 1 is compromised because Hawkbot gave that card to the Dove with the king play. But the play here is going to be the 5. All right, 5. So even though the 1's compromised, that's the play. And the reason is because the procedures say if a player knows your hand, choose yourself. So Dovebot's going to choose itself to discard its hand and throw away that compromised card anyway. Draw a new hand. Hawkbot gets the 4-1. So what will it do? Will it go defensive with the handmaid? Or will it go offensive with the guard? If you know the Hawk like I do, then you know the answer to that question. Play the 1. All right, let's go aggressive. Play the 1 and take a guess. Okay, Hawkbot doesn't know Dubbot's card anymore. Used to know that it was 1, but that's outdated knowledge. So it will go the highest card 2 to 5 with 2 unseen cards. Okay, well there's a 5 over there. 4 can be seen. Both the 4s can be seen. But no 3 can be seen right now. So that's going to be the guess. Hawkbot says, Dove, you're holding the 3, aren't you? No, that's not the case. Dubbot gets the 5-1 again. And we'll play the 5 once again. But this time won't choose itself because its hand is not compromised. Okay, so it will only choose itself if it's holding a 4 through 7 or a player knows its hand. Neither of those is true. So it'll choose Hawkbot to discard its hand and draw a new card. Hawkbot gets the 3-1, and this is the last card of the deck. Not a great finishing hand for the Hawk. But it will play the 1. Maybe it can guess Dovebot's hand. I mean, there's only 2 options, right? There's only the buried card and that card. Okay, so we'll go with the highest number 2 to 5. That is 2 unseen cards. There are probably none of those now. 5, 4, can see a 3, can see a 2. Okay, there's none of those. So we'll just go for the highest card left. Well, both the princess and the countess are in the flop up there. Both the princes can be seen there and the king. Both handmaids can be seen. Only one of the 3s can be seen. Okay. And that last, and one, there's a guard still that can't be seen. So the 2 hidden cards here are a baron and a guard. All right, so the only one of those you can guess anyway is the baron. So if Dubbot's holding a baron, Hawkbot wins. No, not the case. Okay, well, in any case, it comes down to a showdown, and Hawkbot wins anyway. Okay. The Hawk has its first token of affection now in the game, and starts out the next round with the double guard. So, the Hawk doesn't care. Probably play a guard anyway. Okay, so we'll choose the highest number 2 to 5 with 2 unseen cards. No 5 can be seen right now. So that'll be the guess. Dubbot, are you holding a prince? No. Well, this is the 3rd time, I think, that's happened. The guard has guessed a prince, and then the next draw is a prince. I mean, I guess that's not that unlikely. But anyway, the 5-4, Dubbot's hand here. Okay, so 5-4. Dubbot will play its favorite card, of course, the 4. And so cannot be targeted the rest of the round. Oh, Hawkbot finds the other prince. Okay, and so we'll want to play the guard here. But the guard won't do anything because of the handmaid. Dubbot has the same hand that Hawkbot just had, but of course plays it totally differently. The Dove is no Hawk. It will play the 5 instead of the 1. And will only choose itself if it has a 4 or 7 or a player knows its hand. Neither of those is true, so Hawkbot will have to discard its hand and draw a new card. Well, Hawkbot likes to look at this. The 7-3. Only the princess could beat the 7 right now. And that's good enough for the Hawk. So 7-3, play the 3. Initiate an immediate showdown. Highest card wins. Okay, the Hawk wins another one. We're tied 2-2. The Hawk begins the next round with the Baron Priest. So the Priest not quite as high as the Countess, so probably Hawkbot's not going to want to play that 3, right? Yeah, it'll only play the 3 if it knows where a 1 is, and it doesn't. So it'll play the Priest, take a look at its opponent's hand, and sees a handmaid there. The Dove has a 4-3, and the 4 is compromised. which means Dubbot will play that. He would have played the 4 anyway, but that's its play. Okay, can't be targeted for the rest of the round. Hawkbot now with a handmade Baron as well, and of course plays it totally differently than Dovebot. Hawkbot thinks 4 is high enough. That's a high enough card to initiate a showdown. Again, more than half the deck is lower than a 4, so it's a better than 50% chance, all things being equal, of winning this showdown. But here's the thing. Dubbot has a handmade in play, so that actually doesn't do anything. So this is another place where, the bots could be better. If Hawkbot were more sensitive, to its opponent's, its opponent's card plays, then it might see that and might make a different choice. But anyway, that's Hawkbot's play. Dubbot now with a 5-3. And unlike Hawkbot, Dubbot doesn't think that 5 is high enough. Dubbot is a more conservative, defensive style player. So the 5-3, Dubbot will play the 5. It's a little too scared of playing the Baron in a case like this. So it'll play the 5, and will only choose itself if it has a 4 through 7 or a player knows its hand, which is not the case. So Hawkbot will have to discard its hand and draw a new card. Hawkbot now with the double guard, so we'll play one, of course. And doesn't know Dubbot's card, so we'll go with the highest card, 2 to 5, with 2 unseen cards. But right now, I think we can see at least one of those. 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, so all those can be seen at least once. So the next priority is just the highest unseen card, which is the princess. Hawkbot doesn't see the princess anywhere, so accuses Dubbot of holding the princess. But that's incorrect. Dubbot now picks up the Countess to go with the Baron. And Dubbot isn't so scared, of playing the Baron that it won't do so unless it can absolutely win. 7-3, even the Dove thinks the 7 is high enough to play the 3. So that will be the play here. Only the princess can beat Dubbot here. So initiates a showdown. As long as Hawkbot doesn't have the princess, Dubbot wins. The Dove starts the next round with the 4-1. So what do you think? Will it go defensive or will it go offensive? I think we know the answer. Dubbot will go defensive. Play the handmaid. That's what makes the Dove and the Hawk different, right? Okay. Hawkbot with the 3-1. And so we'll play the 1 in this case. Which won't actually do anything because of the handmaid. Dubbot now with the double guard, and so is forced to go aggressive, despite its natural tendencies. And so we'll go with the highest number, 2 to 5, with 2 unseen cards. No 5s can be seen right now by the Dove. So that'll be the guess. Hawkbot, are you holding a prince? No. Well, okay. The 6 is definitely going to be high enough for the Hawk to initiate a showdown. So that's exactly what it's going to do. Okay. So plays the Baron, initiates an immediate showdown, highest card wins, and that's the Hawk. The game is tied now, 3-3. And Hawkbot starts the next round with the early princess, so must play the guard. Okay, as usual, the highest card, 2 to 5, with 2 unseen cards. There's no 5 in play right now that Hawkbot can see, so that'll be the guess. Are you holding a prince, Dubbot? No. Dubbot with the 2-1 now. We'll want to play the 2. Okay, which means it's going to have a peek at Hawkbot's hand and see the princess over there. Okay. Well, this does not look good for the Hawk. The princess is compromised. Dubbot's holding a guard. I mean, Hawkbot doesn't know that, but probably going to be dead meat on Dubbot's turn. But anyway, has to play the priest. and finds out, that Dovebot's holding a guard, just to take a peek at it. So anyway, probably at this point knows that it's dead meat. All right, well, Dovebot has a 3-1. Obviously, we'll play the 1 in this case. Yeah. Okay. And so, if you know the opponent's card, just choose it, and Dovebot does know. So, it says, you're holding the princess, Hawkbot, so you're out. Dovebot wins. Well, Dovebot starts out with the early princess this time. And so, of course, it must play the prince and cannot choose itself, so Hawkbot must discard its hand and draw a new card. Hawkbot now with a double guard, so we'll play one, and we'll guess the highest number 2 to 5 with 2 unseen cards. Okay, 5 can be seen, but no 4 can be seen by the Hawk right now, so that'll be the guess. Holding the 4? Nope. Dovebot picks up the other prince now, and so does the exact same thing. Force the Hawk to throw away its hand and draw a new card. Well, this is bad news for Hawkbot. Our hyper-aggressive friend here is certainly going to play the Baron in a case like this. Yeah, that's what it's going to do. And, it's a good play. I mean, the king can only be beaten by the countess and the princess. The countess is in the flop, so only the princess could win here. It's just, bad luck that happens to be the card the Dove is holding. Okay, so Dovebot wins another one. Dovebot now has 5 tokens of affection to Hawkbot's 3. So starts the next round with a 2-1. And of course we'll play the 2 in that case. Take a look at its opponent's hand, which in this case is a Baron. Well, the Hawk gets a lucky break here. Okay, so the unbeatable hand, the Princess Baron. Immediate showdown, the Hawk can't lose. Hawkbot starts the next round with the Baron Priest. And we'll play the Priest in this case, of course. Have a look at Dovebot's hand and sees a guard there. Dovebot now with the Countess guard. And the guard is compromised because Hawkbot just looked at it. But Dovebot doesn't care about that. Would rather play the 7. With the thinking that, compromised guards are not that big a deal. Opponents cannot play guards and guess the guard. It's not allowed by the rules. So your opponent knowing you're holding a guard is not too big a problem. Or so the Dovebot thinks anyway. It would rather hold the low card and have some protection against a guard play and someone guessing the Countess, for example. So here's a place where that defensive style play was not a good idea, at least against the Hawk, who picks up a prince and thinks the prince is high enough for me to go ahead and play the 3. In any case, the Hawk knows that Dove is holding a 1, so pretty much any card, besides another 1 with the Baron, Hawk would just play it, the Baron. Okay, so anyway, initiates immediate showdown and the Hawk wins. We have a tie game, 5-5. So yeah, the game is tied, 5-5. And Hawkbot is up first, this next hand. So will our hyper-aggressive friend start out with a great aggressive hand to just end this round early? Let's take a look. Well, it's the Handmaid Baron. And we know the Hawk. The Hawk thinks a 4 is good enough. That's good enough to initiate a showdown with the Baron. So with the 4-3, the Hawk plays the 3. Thinking that the chances are better than 50%. And, there's a 1 and a 2 up there and a 6. So, there's 2 low cards gone and only 1 high card gone. So it's not clear. I guess the odds are probably, probably about 50-50 here. I mean, I'm not going to do the math and totally figure it out, but it's probably close to that. Okay, so it initiates a showdown with the handmaid. So let's see. Will Dovebot be able to beat that or not? No. Okay. So Hawkbot now has 6 tokens of affection, only needs to win 1 more to win the whole tournament. So once again, the Hawk has 6 tokens of affection, only needs 1 more to win, and gets to go first this hand. So what do you reckon? Will the Hawk start out again with a very strong, aggressive hand and just knock Dovebot out quickly and end this whole show? Well, let's take a look. Oh, man. Another pretty strong hand with the Baron. With the Prince this time. So it's actually a little better than it was with the Handmaid. And the Princess, by the way, is gone. So the only cards that can beat the Prince right now are King and the Countess. Okay, well, I mean, 5-3, obviously, Hawkbot's going to play the 3. And initiate this showdown. If the Hawk wins, the game's all over. If Dovebot wins, we play on. Okay. Hawkbot wins and takes the whole tournament. So Hawkbot is the ultimate champion of the tournament, knocking out Dovebot in the final matchup. So our podium looks like this. Hawkbot wins. Dovebot in second place, and Turkeybot in third place. Ravenbot doesn't make the podium because it was knocked out early. Okay, just a couple of final thoughts about this. This was really fun. I had a lot of fun doing this. I thought it was really, a challenge to create these bots. I think, there are places where I could have made some better choices. But, you learn that by playing with these things. I think the bots could be improved in various ways. I mentioned some ways they could be made better when it comes to late game performance. They could pay better attention to the deck as it's running out. They could pay better attention to the card plays of their opponents. That would be especially important in the 2-player game, where that matters more than in the 4-player game. Because in the 4-player game, you always have a target somewhere. In the 3-player game, it's possible you might not have a target if there are 2 handmaids in play, but that's probably not that common. But in the 2-player game, it's very common that your opponent has a handmaid in play, and whatever you play is not going to have the effect it normally would. Okay, so the bots could be more sensitive to that. I also think that the 4-player game and the 2-player game are different enough that different styles of play are likely to do better in the different player counts. I think that's definitely something that came through in the playthroughs. I wasn't surprised at all that Ravenbot won the 4-player game. Where's Ravenbot? Ravenbot's over here, off the podium, sad. I wasn't surprised at all that Ravenbot won the 4-player game. I mean, that kind of analytic style, that kind of gathering information and making a move when the data you have suggests that it's a good quality move. That works well in the 4-player game. That works well at higher player counts. But then it wasn't really that big of a surprise to me that Ravenbot was the first out in the tournament, because that style of play doesn't work very well in the 2-player game, right? There just isn't time to gather information. And the thing is, well, because, your opponent is going to take the turn right after yours. So suppose you do gather some information on your turn about their card. Well, it's now their turn. So that information is probably not going to do you much good. It got to the point where I wasn't even tracking public knowledge in the 2-player game. It just didn't matter. If a bot guessed that its opponent was holding a 5, let's say, and that turned out to not be true, Well, in the four-player game, that information can linger for a while. The other players can use that information on their turns, um, because that information is still viable. But in a two-player game, that doesn't really matter because, okay, you find out your opponent's not holding a 5, let's say, but it's now their turn. And no matter what card they play, um, you know, it could be that they are holding a 5 now. So you can't really say for certain that knowledge really doesn't do you any good. The only knowledge that does do you good is knowledge you gain from a priest, because you just get to look at their hand, and knowledge you gain from a king if you swap hands with them, because you know exactly what their card is, and there's a potential that they won't play it, and so you'll know exactly what card they have. So anyway, that turns out to be the only knowledge that's really relevant in the two-player game, whereas in the four-player game, that sort of public or table knowledge is important and can last for a while. So I think that Ravenbot style play works better in the four-player game, or in the higher player count games. Whereas in the lower player count games, again, I'm not all that surprised that Hawkbot style play turned out to be victorious here. Because in the two-player game, gathering information is just not all that. It's not all that valuable. You don't have a lot of time. It's probably better to just try to get your opponent out as quickly as you can, even if that means guessing at their card. On the other hand, I was quite surprised at how well Dovebot did in the two-player game. I thought Dovebot was not going to do well at all. I thought that style of play of just sort of hanging back and waiting for other players to knock each other out, wasn't going to work in the two-player game at all. Because all you have to do in a two-player game is knock out one person. So waiting for other players to knock each other out, well, it seems like you're just waiting around for the other player to knock you out, right? But Dovebot did surprisingly well, so I was quite surprised at that. And maybe the reason, if I was going to speculate about the reason, maybe the reason is because, holding lower cards, your opponent is less likely to guess those, at least against bot opponents. If you're playing against real people, they're probably going to figure you out after a while. Say, oh, that player really likes to hold those low cards, so I'm going to start guessing the low cards. So against a thoughtful human opponent, maybe this style of play doesn't work so well in the two-player game. But anyway, against bots, it actually worked surprisingly well. Okay, I think, by the way, that it might be interesting to make a bot that plays kind of Dove style early in the hand and then sort of switches to Hawk style play later in the hand. I think that might be interesting, because one of the shortcomings of Dovebot is that it doesn't pay attention to the size of the deck. Okay, none of these bots do that, but that's especially problematic for Dovebot, because Dovebot likes to keep those low cards. So when it draws the last card of the deck, let's say, and it's holding, a 7-1, it wants to play the 7 and keep the 1. But that's a really dumb play at the end of the hand. Right, where if there's going to be a showdown, you want to keep the higher card. Okay, so anyway, I think Dovebot could definitely be improved in that way. But I think it'd be interesting, to think about the style of play that starts out dovish, at the beginning of the hand, and moves into a more hawkish or even ravenish style play later in the hand. I think that might be a pretty effective strategy, at least in the two-player game. Okay, my final thoughts on this are, well, I wonder, what have we really shown, if anything, through this Nullitaire playthrough? Well, I think if we've shown anything with any kind of level of certainty, it's, what should be obvious to anyone with even the slightest, bit of play with Love Letter, and that's that luck plays a really big role in this game. There is room for strategic play, of course, and we saw that come out in the Nullitaire games here. But on any given day, the most expert player of this game can be beaten by an absolute beginner just by the luck of the draw. So that plays such a huge part of this. So, can you make any real general statements about what's the best strategy here, just from the playthroughs we've done? I don't know. Seems like we'd have to play a lot more to really say much about what's the best, quote unquote, strategy with Love Letter. But in any case, I think, it didn't turn out too unexpected. That Ravenbot did better in the 4-player game, that kind of analytic style, build knowledge, make sure that other people at the table are getting the same knowledge that helps them knock other players out. So there's a bit of a cooperative element to that 4-player game that's absent in the 2-player game. So the Ravenbot style works pretty well in that 2-player atmosphere. And that hawkish style play works better in the 2-player atmosphere. That bot style play was surprisingly good in the 2-player game. I think that's the surprise for me. Turkey style play actually does better than one might expect. So it's not crazy to just think, this is all luck and it doesn't really matter what card I play as long as I'm making the obvious plays. Those plays that aren't obvious, you could just kind of do randomly and it won't really matter. Well, that's not a crazy idea. I mean, the turkey did better than one might expect based on that idea. I mean, it beat Hawkbot in the very first round. So obviously it can work with the right card draws. All right, well, I guess that concludes our Nullitaire playthroughs of Love Letter. Thank you all for watching, and hope to see you on the next Nullitaire playthrough. Till then, bye. What will be the next Nullitaire game? I wonder.